Hey, good morning, everybody. We'll get started and folks will join as we progress to get a little bit further in. Welcome to OBI's webinar on the implementation of CAA of the Oregon's Recycling Modernization Act. It is our extended producer responsibility program that is being implemented by Circular Action Alliance. And so I'd like to first welcome our folks from Circular Action Alliance here with us today. We have Alex Bertolucci and Kim Holmes, and they'll introduce themselves as I throw it off to them. Before we get started, I'll do a couple housekeeping uh, bits. First, this webinar will be recorded, as you probably just heard, and posted on OBI's website today for people who can't make it. Uh, at the end of the presentation, we will have a question and answer session. Please type your questions into the Q&A field below. They'll be answered following the presentation. We have an hour scheduled for this webinar, but may not need all of it. If so, we will end early. All right, with that, I'll throw it to Kim and Alex.
Great. Thank you so much, Derek. And thank you, OBI, for the opportunity to connect with members today so we can share an update on where we are at with the implementation of the Recycling Modernization Act. So I'm Kim Holmes. I am the Executive Director of the Oregon team. And Alex Bertolucci is with me. He is our comms manager, and he will walk you through the update. And then we will both be available for some Q&A after that. And we look forward to the discussion and the questions. Alex, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Kim, and thanks, Derek. Thanks for having us here today. Good morning and happy Earth Day to everybody. As Kim mentioned, I'm Alex Bertolucci, the Oregon Communications Manager for Circular Action Alliance, or CAA. As you can see, we have lots of acronyms right there on the screen, so hopefully we'll get all those explained as we go along. As Kim mentioned, we're going to be providing an update on CAA's work in Oregon to implement the state's Paper and Packaging Extended Producer Responsibility, or EPR program, that was established by the Plastic Pollution and Recycling Modernization Act. Before we get into the content, our lawyers like us to have these two legal slides to make sure that we cover everything. This first one reminds folks about antitrust laws. As you can see on the slide, we cannot discuss certain topics such as pricing, profits, discounts, and others. So we just ask for your cooperation not discussing those. And if there are questions on those, we will have to skip over them. Another legal slide. I'm not your lawyer, nor would you want me to be, and that's why today's webinar does not constitute legal advice. You should not use it as such. If you have any questions about the law and how it impacts your company, make sure that you talk to a qualified professional. All right, now that the legal stuff's out of the way, let's look at what we're covering today in the webinar. First, we'll introduce you to CAA, who we are. Then we'll provide an update on producer reporting. We'll spend most of the presentation providing an update for you on what CAA has been up to for the last several months, followed by what's coming in the months ahead, and then leave some time for questions at the end. So first off, I just want to take a few minutes and remind you or introduce you to CAA. So we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to implementing effective packaging extended producer responsibility laws in the United States. CAA was founded by the companies shown here, and these founding members provide CAA with startup capital and continued oversight and governance. However, because CAA is currently the sole provider of producer responsibility in Oregon and many other states, we are committed to working with the thousands of member producers that are obligated under EPR laws. And CAA's mission is to deliver harmonized, best-in-class compliance services to all producers to advance an efficient and effective circular economy. We will meet state regulations, build on existing systems and structures when possible, and work with interest holders across the system to advance environmental outcomes of covered products. In Oregon, we're also focused on ensuring local governments, service providers, and community members have the tools, resources, and funding available to successfully implement our EPR law. Zooming out from Oregon just a little bit to take a look at the national perspective, Oregon is one of 5 states currently with packaging EPR laws. The others are California, Colorado, Maine, and Minnesota. And in recent weeks, the legislature in Washington and Maryland also passed packaging EPR laws that are awaiting their governor's signatures. So, for all of you that sell covered products into other EPR states, make sure that you're keeping an eye out for upcoming registration and reporting deadlines. We'll talk about the 2 that are coming up quickest in a future slide. Now, I'd like to introduce you to the Oregon team. Our team has been growing pretty rapidly as we ramp up towards implementation. This team has a deep understanding of the recycling and waste system and is already leveraging that experience as we approach the launch of packaging EPR here in Oregon. This is the team to reach out to if you have any questions, and contact information for us can be found on the Oregon page of circularactionalliance.org. All right. So EPR programs only work because producers report information on their sales to the PRO, or CAA in this case. The next section of slides will provide an update on how that reporting is going and how CAA supports producer reporting, in case you aren't quite there yet. CAA celebrated a pretty major milestone in advancing packaging EPR with the successful completion of Oregon's first reporting window on March 31st. However, it's critical that non-reporting producers submit late reports as soon as possible. CA's seen significant progress in producer registration and reporting, and producer registration have steadily increased, and more than 1,700 producers have submitted on-time supply reports to CAA, and we're expecting hundreds more in the coming week or so. We're extremely proud of this result and the producer community's engagement with CAA to meet these milestones. If you've already reported, a huge thank you to you. You are making your job and ours much easier, so thank you. We appreciate the time and the energy that you've put into improving Oregon's recycling system. Early indications suggest that we've achieved right about the producer supply tons to meet around the average high fee scenario outlined in the Oregon program plan. However, CAA is still validating those reports and what's come in, and looking forward to seeing more reports come in. And so these numbers might change a little bit as we review data. CAA is providing non-reporting producers a bit of a grace period to submit their late supply reports until April 30th, which is only 8 days away. So make sure that if you haven't reported, you do so very soon. Receiving additional supply data before fee setting will further reduce the average fee per ton, which will benefit all producers. So the more tons that are reported, the lower the average fee will be. This is where we need your help. If you know of a company that hasn't reported and you have, it would benefit you to give them a reminder to report. And if you have not yet reported, it is not too late. Now is the time to report. Like I said, April 30th is the date. After the reporting portal closes on that April 30th date, CAA will start to set those final fee schedules, which will be used for invoicing coming in late May. CAA's producer services team has been extremely busy ensuring producers have the resources they need to report accurately and on time. Our team has created several resources such as webinars and guides to assist producers in the registration and reporting process. All of this information can be found on circularactionalliance.org. The webinars cover a range of topics and build on each other. Producer Onboarding 101 will answer the basic questions and get you ready for EPR. The 102 webinar walks you through registration and what agreements are needed. And 103 helps you budget for EPR programs. Once you have the basics covered, you can attend the 200 and 300 level training courses to dig in even deeper and learn more. CAA is working to keep producers informed as best we can. And since January 2024, our team has hosted at least 35 producer-focused webinars. That doesn't count all of the other webinars we've been busy with. And we're still going. These webinars continue to be posted and hosted, and you can find that again on our website. If you're interested, check out the website for upcoming and past webinars. Another way to stay connected with what's happening is to sign up for one of our newsletters. We send 2 monthly newsletters right now, one for with a national, more producer-focused lens, and one with a local implementation focus here in Oregon. And you've probably guessed it, but you can sign up for both newsletters on our website of circularactionalliance.org. And lastly, we've been working with local and national trade associations to share important information with their members. Trade associations like OBI have partnered to help spread the word, prepare their members, and provide input to CAA. And we really appreciate your help hosting webinars like today. As I mentioned earlier, other states are also working on packaging EPR, and their reporting deadlines are approaching. You can see here that Minnesota and Colorado both have deadlines in July. CAA is the PRO in both of these states, and reporting will be similar, but not identical to Oregon's. The laws vary a little bit, and so we need to adjust our reporting based on that. It is extremely important that if you are an obligated producer in these other states, you stay informed so that you get all the information you need to register and report on time. Attending those webinars I just mentioned on the last slide is a great way to stay informed, stay connected, and know what you need to be doing in the future. I've mentioned several ways that you can stay engaged with CAA and the producer reporting process. And this slide shows all of the different options, including those 2 QR codes to access that information quickly. We'll share this with OBI if they're able to distribute that. The biggest resource on this slide is probably the producer support email address, producer.support@circularaction.org. This is who you can email to get your questions answered. As you can imagine, they are receiving a huge volume of messages right now, so it can take a couple days for them to get back to you, but rest assured that they will respond and they have all of the questions. They'll be able to answer your questions. So again, if you have a question, email producer.support@circularaction.org. And I've mentioned a lot of dates and information that you all need to keep track of for EPR here in Oregon. This timeline shows how all of these dates fit together and build from one another. So I'm going to highlight a few key dates to pay attention to. First is that April 30th date. That's the day all reports must be submitted. The reporting portal will close after this date, and CAA will use that data that's been reported to begin setting those final fees. In late May or early June, CAA will announce the final fees and begin to send invoices to producers. These fees are due in July when CAA starts using the collected fees to meet the obligations of the RMA on behalf of its member producers. Additionally, reporting dates and fee schedules are shown here between now and the end of the first program plan, which ends December 31st, 2027. So again, please stay connected with CAA to ensure you're getting the latest information and not missing any of those obligations. Now let's turn our attention to what CAA has been working on for the past several months to prepare for the launch of Oregon's EPR program. First, we'll talk about system expansion. CAA has several funding obligations under the RMA. System expansion is one of the largest buckets of funding. This includes ensuring communities have the trucks, carts, and recycling infrastructure in place to collect the Uniform Statewide Collection List, or USCL. And the USCL is that list that was established by DEQ for what can be collected altogether in your home or works recycling bin. Much of the system expansion funding will first flow to smaller and more rural communities that don't have the same recycling access as some of the more urban areas of the state. CAA is working with recycling sorting facilities to update equipment so they can efficiently and effectively process the larger amounts of recycling that will come their way as communities expand their recycling programs. Recycling centers are a new piece brought by the RMA, which we'll discuss in more detail later. But these recycling centers will collect items that aren't accepted in your curbside recycling bins. These centers will make it so more products are recyclable by more people. And last but not least, and something that's near and dear to my heart as the communications manager, is CA is developing a whole new set of education and outreach materials for use around the state to help folks understand what is recyclable and recycle with confidence. You'll see some of these materials towards the end of today's presentation. CA divided communities into different priority areas to make the rollout of funding more manageable and to address the highest needs first. This slide shows the first set of communities, which we call Priority A communities, and the funding they will receive. You'll notice again that many of these communities are those more rural and are included in this first group because they needed funding to meet the state's recycling requirements. The funding provided will allow more people around the state to recycle more of the packaging that your companies sell. Our team has met with these communities and is working to ensure everything is in place for funding to flow as soon as the program launches. The Oregon Program Plan, which you can find on DEQ's website or CAA's Oregon website, has a full list of communities, their priority levels, and how much funding they will receive. As I mentioned a couple slides back, PRO funding will be used to set up a network of recycling centers around the state to collect recyclable materials that are harder to sort and not allowed in your home or business recycling bin. We're going to dig into that a little deeper now. During the first program plan, which ends December 31st, 2027, CA will establish over 140 recycling centers or collection points around the state. These centers will collect the PRO recycling acceptance list, which I'll show you on the next slide. These centers and collection points will be located at existing solid waste facilities, donation centers like Habitat for Humanity Restore and the ARC, and some retail locations like grocery stores. CAA will provide funding and support to ensure the centers provide a positive resource for their community. The PRO recycling acceptance list is different from the uniform statewide collection list that's allowed at your home or business recycling bin. The PRO acceptance list has 8 items on it. The list includes items that currently cause issues with sorting machines but are still recyclable. These include plastic bags and stretchy plastic that can get caught in the sorting machine and jam them up, plastic lids from items like yogurt and sour cream containers, and those rigid plastic package handles that you find on 6-packs. These items are flat and, if mixed with paper, can sometimes trick sorting machines into thinking that they're paper and sending them to the wrong place for recycling. Collecting these items separately allows for them to be recycled without the issues involved in sorting. Other items on the list include foil, plastic buckets and bulky containers, shredded paper, and glass when not collected curbside. Some locations will collect block white expanded polystyrene or styrofoam. I just mentioned that some of these recycling centers will collect glass. The RMA only requires communities in the metro area to collect glass from commercial businesses. However, CAA is working with communities to keep their established curbside glass collection when possible because it's convenient for residents and it's an efficient way to collect glass. Communities that choose to continue to collect glass will be offered a financial incentive that matches the cost that CAA would pay to collect the glass at recycling centers. By supporting communities' continued collection of glass, CA is ensuring that the public can easily recycle a common recyclable and reduce the number of trips to recycling centers. CA will also support communities that don't currently collect glass curbside or at all, or would prefer that the glass be collected at the PRO-funded recycling centers. As mentioned before, the recycling centers will create an expanded opportunity for community members to recycle in one easy spot. CAA is in the process of setting up a partnership with OBRC to leverage their logistics network to collect materials, including glass, from CAA's recycling centers and ensure the material flow to end markets via OBRC's processing centers located around the state. Using this partnership leverages an existing system to ensure recycling remains cost effective, which in turn helps keep fees lower for producers. The recycling centers will start to roll out in Southern Oregon in the third quarter of 2025. From there, we're taking a regional approach to establish the 140 plus recycling centers or collection points around the state by the end of 2027. The regions showed on the slide correspond with OBRC's processing network and provide a framework for a structured expansion. Using the regional rollout approach also allows CAA and OBRC to understand what's working and what might need to be changed before the full state rollout occurs. All of the changes and updates I've mentioned required the community to be informed and know how to interact with this new modernized system. CAA is developing several tools and resources to support local governments, the recycling hauling companies, and community members in understanding the changes that the Recycling Modernization Act brings and be able to recycle with confidence. CAA is developing various digital and non-digital channels to deliver education and outreach campaigns to the public. On the left of the screen is the blue oval. You'll see the instructional campaigns there. These are the educational materials to help communities understand how to recycle correctly. These include recycling guides, mailers, newsletters, signage, and much more. Most of this will be deployed by local governments and the recycling service providers. On the right, in the green oval, we have the motivational campaign. This campaign will help folks understand why the change is happening and motivate them to participate and get involved with the system. CAA will deploy these campaigns, which will include statewide ads and social media campaigns. And in the middle, both of these sections meet with a new public-facing website that will provide community members with up-to-date information about recycling and EPR here. All of the education and outreach materials discussed on the last slide will be branded with a new E&O or Education and Outreach brand, which is Recycle On Oregon. This brand helps create a consistent look and feel across the state because these education materials are being used not just in Portland, not just in Southern Oregon, but across the full state to help folks connect with their local recycling program and the new system. Think of this brand kind of like how OBRC created a customer-facing bottle drop brand for their campaign. The mission of Recycle On Oregon is to make recycling easier and more efficient by providing clear guidance and meaningful support so that all Oregonians can participate in a trusted recycling system that works. We'll adopt a friendly, approachable, and helpful tone that creates reliable, trusted, and empathetic tools. Overall, we hope to encourage people to participate in making a better recycling system here in Oregon. Now, on to some of the fun stuff, what the actual E&O materials will look like. First up, we have the recycling guides. These will help community members understand what is recyclable and how to prepare this material for recycling. The two guides here address a few differences, such as different metal collection and whether or not community has curbside glass collection or not. Local governments will be able to co-brand these materials, and over time, communities across the state will share a similar look and feel for recycling education. This means that no matter where in Oregon you are, you'll know what's recyclable and can turn to Recycle on Oregon to get the correct information. CAA is responsible for covering the cost of printing these education and outreach materials for use by local governments and service providers. Next, we have the recycling cart label in several languages to help folks identify their recycling bin. A major aspect of the RMA is ensuring that everyone in Oregon, no matter where they live, the language they speak, or their physical ability, can access recycling education. All the materials we're showing you today will be available in those multiple languages. On the other side of this slide, we have the no icons that highlight key contaminants that cause issues with the recycling system, and communities will be able to edit their materials to pick which contaminants they want to highlight. These next few slides show draft materials. These are non-final. And here we have the info card and cart tag. Both of these items provide similar information, what can be recycled, and a recycling tip, such as not bagging your recycling or answering the common question, how clean does my peanut butter jar actually need to be? These materials will be bilingual to address Oregon's diverse population, as well as being available in other languages. This slide shows how we've taken the look and feel of the recycling guide and created larger signage for recycling enclosures, drop-off recycling depots, or inside of a business's trash room. We've also created decals for recycling dumpsters and glass recycling bins to ensure the community knows what is and isn't recyclable. We've created billing inserts that share the recycling message and social media posts on the right that expand on the recycling tips and announce the coming changes. All of these materials will be available to local governments and their service providers at no charge. Switching from the education materials to the motivational materials, we have a few examples of some of the statewide ads. We're using the tagline, "Together, we can do this." The campaign will show how Oregonians around the state are participating in the new system. Shown here are some draft social media posts that convey a similar message to the radio and other ads in development. That message is that recycling in Oregon is improving and modernizing thanks to the new shared system under our EPR law. As you've heard, we've been extremely busy preparing for the July launch of Oregon's EPR program under the RMA. Let's now turn our attention to see what's coming next for all of you and CAA between now and the July launch. This will not turn, the July launch isn't going to just turn on recycling programs across the state like flipping a light switch, but will rather slowly ramp up programs across the state more like turning a dial. To ensure a successful launch, there are a few things that need to be done in the meantime. For all of you, please make sure that you're registered and have reported to CAA within the next 8 days by April 30th. If you haven't yet reported or registered, please contact producer.support@circularaction.org right away to ensure that you'll be in compliance when the law takes effect. In May, CAA will use the reported data to set fees and send out invoices in June. Also in May, CAA plans to submit a program plan amendment to establish a third eco-modulation bonus. These bonuses offer producers reduced fees for products with verifiable environmental impact reductions. Bonus C, as we call it, will focus on impact reductions from switching to reusable or refillable packaging. The Oregon program plan has more information about eco-modulation bonus A and B. And that's what we have. Thanks for being here today and working with CAA to ensure packaging EPR is a success here in Oregon. And anytime a new process or system is rolled out, there's going to be challenges and learning curves. We want you to know that we're here to support you and help you navigate these changes. Oregon is the first state in the United States to implement paper and packaging EPR. But we're not the only packaging EPR state. It's not too late to engage with CAA and ensure that you're in compliance in Oregon and will be in compliance with the other laws around the country. Thanks again for your time. And now Kim is going to join me and answer some questions.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, Alex. We currently do not have any questions in the queue, so you did a very thorough job. I guess we could give it a minute to see if anybody wants to get into the queue for a question, but we have one. Do you want to take it, Kim? Read it out.
Let me pop that open. Non-compliant producers in Oregon. Okay. We do get similar questions often. So the question is, do you have an estimate on how many eligible producers haven't complied, and what compliance efforts will CAA and the state take? We feel very confident that we have identified the producers that have the largest reporting supply obligations in the state. So there's an analogy actually that I like to borrow from David Alloway at DEQ. You can hide a needle in a haystack, but you can't hide a semi. And we are pretty confident that we have found all of the semis. So to specifically answer the question, we are not sure how many smaller producers have not yet registered. Our team continues to do some research on that. But even if we bring in many, many small producers relative to what's already been reported, it's going to be fairly low volumes. I'd also like to remind folks that maybe in that smaller producer category, that we do have some flat fee tier categories to simplify reporting if you reach certain volume or sales thresholds. And there's also a sales threshold where a producer is not obligated at all. So make sure you understand where you fall within that, and as you prepare for reporting. I will say we have updated most recently the list of registered producers on our website. Many of those registered producers have completed reporting, have reporting in process, or have, if they have not completed reporting, have not identified themselves as an obligated producer in Oregon, because we have producers that register with CAA across all of the states. So the number of registered producers will not necessarily align with the number of reported producers. Those producers that have identified themselves as an obligated producer in Oregon and not reported, or that we have identified through other means as likely an obligated producer, we have sent that list to DEQ and at their request. And I do believe DEQ will be doing some outreach to those producers to remind them of their obligation to register and report with CAA. Post July 1, DEQ may choose to take more formal actions or responses towards those that have not yet registered with CAA, but they have asked us to keep them informed of the list of compliant producers.
Thanks, Kim. That was the only question we've gotten so far in the queue. I guess we can give it one more minute.
Well, and Derek, I guess maybe we could just wrap up and offer, if your members have future questions, they can reach out to someone on our team. I think utilizing the resources that Alex provided, that will certainly help answer likely many of the common questions that they have and get them started in their reporting journey if they have not yet started it. Just to reiterate, we do encourage all producers to get their reported volumes in by April 30th. That's the point at which we'll be closing the portal and using all of those reported volumes to calculate the fees, and producers will be invoiced on those fees. If you have not reported prior to April 30th, the fees that were calculated will just be applied forward for all of those producers that would be kind of late reporters. And so it really benefits everyone to get your reported volumes in, because the more reported supply we have, the lower the overall fees for everyone.
Thanks, Kim. As always, let us know how we can be helpful to you all at OBI. Thank you for participating to the participants. With that, have a great rest of your Tuesday, everybody.
Excellent. Thanks, Derek. Thanks, everybody.